Hello and welcome to the Real Life Alexa channel. I'm Alexa. This is Real Life. Today we're going to talk about a story that dropped today. The professional Brazilian football player Richarlison did an interview on his mental health after the World Cup last year and how he sought help for depression and severe thoughts. And I have been open and honest about my own struggles with mental health. My journey of recovery and self-care really started in probably must have been 2003, and it was about a year after a car accident that the car accident itself was not necessarily the issue. It was the trigger that all of the issues I had from childhood trauma, traumatic events, abuse, parental alienation, and a whole lot more. It was the trigger that caused, basically, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, and it triggered severe anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder. And a year after this car accident, I wasn't able to be doing anything really. I got out of bed to go to work so that my cats had a place to live. And that sounds like the silliest statement to make, but that was what I was doing and why I was doing it. There pretty much wasn't much else that made me get out of bed at the time. So when we look at basically anyone in the public eye, but specifically sports figures, people who are at the top of their game, they go to something like the Olympics or the FIFA World Cup or whatever their sport is, and they go to the top of it. They've worked their whole life for that, and suddenly it's over. And sure, you say, okay, but you could go to the Olympics again in 4 years, right? That's not how our brains necessarily work. There is this phenomena of these sports figures having this very big dip in their mental health after these big events that they've worked up for so long have ended. And over the past my life, the story and the discourse around mental health has changed, and it has been a positive change. It still has a long way to go, but I'm here today simply really to say thank you to Richy. He used to be on my favorite team, Everton. He is I've read the stories. He gives part of his salary for his hometown in Brazil. He's always trying to help out, and he just seems like a genuinely decent guy. And for him to take the steps he has taken by giving this interview and speaking out, it's incredibly brave because he is such a public figure. He speaks in this interview about even members of his family and their own his own mentality about something like therapy coming from his family, and how he thought about it as well being a bad thing, and that you must be crazy if you need therapy. This is such a powerful and very beautiful thing, in my opinion, for him to courageously come to the table, to the public, and say, I had this occur. I met with a therapist, and I thought it was, it wasn't going to work. It was a stupid thing to do. That, if you needed a therapist, you were crazy. And in reality, it was one of the best things he's ever done. And I'm paraphrasing his words here, but this was the message that he spoke. For him to speak that publicly, I hope that it helps further the conversation around normalizing that This is how our bodies can work. And maybe you yourself have never suffered from something that has pushed your mind to this place before, but to understand that human nature and that our bodies are built a certain way, there's physiological things within the mind that occur, to know that this is true, you don't have to have experienced it. Every person who speaks out, and one of the reasons that despite my own fear of being discriminated against, when someone thinks, oh, well, she must not be as good because she has these things that she's suffered in the past. It's not true. Some of the things that I still deal with today, anxiety never goes away. It's almost like you can sort of keep stuff in remission, sort of, is the way to kind of think about it. But if something really big and stressful comes up, there are natural tendencies to then fall back into some habits. There is a benefit to the way my brain works. There are so many things that I can do and bring to the table. Within my work, I participate in a council that talks about culture and care and treating our entire community of employees and customers in a very responsible and human way. And as a leader in my position, over various positions over the years, recognizing that other people are human is where I start with how I try to approach situations. And I'm not perfect, and I have done things that I wish I had handled better. You have a bad day, you might say something, be like, well, I could have said that better, I could have handled the situation better. Of course, we're human, everyone can. But when I come to the table and with the things that I do and the things that I say, I have thought about multiple, like uncountable factors, situations, how it could play out, what could possibly go right, what could go wrong, what might happen if we choose a certain path versus another option. I will have spent a lot of time thinking about things and coming to my decisions extremely carefully. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to be right. I think that the biggest thing, especially in life, is that you make a decision and it's part of a journey, and it'll take you along this next part of the path, and then you'll find that you're going to need another decision. There's always another decision to make. So I do speak out because, first of all, this is completely natural. This happens to us. We don't choose it. We don't ask for it. This is something that is physiological. It's in our nature, just as being humans. Second of all, there's actually some good things that come along with when we do have something that is different about us. I think there are a few examples of this. I believe it was will.i.am, the rapper and producer. I'm probably missing a bunch of things off his resume, but he talks about, I want to say it was ADHD. Please don't quote me on that. But he talked about that, how that was his superpower too, because it gave him certain characteristics that allowed him to do certain things that makes him successful in the way that he is successful. And I think that if we do look at ourselves in a way of, I may not have this strength, but this is a strength that comes from what I have, we will do a lot better as a society, as individuals, as teams, as just generally humans. There's this old, I don't know how old it is, but I've known about this sort of saying for years. I believe I heard it first within the conversation around standardized tests for children. If you always measure success by how well you can climb a tree, the fish will always think they're stupid. And the monkey will always win, right? And that's the hardest thing about standardized tests, is that there does have to be some sort of measurement within public education. This is where I had first heard it. But these tests are not the be-all, end-all. And the more importance we place on a single test score, when I was getting to college age, it was the SAT, the SAT. And it wasn't, I don't know if it was because I'd lived in England and I moved here. I wasn't as worried about it. I was like, whatever. It might have been from my childhood, with my mother telling me that I didn't have the same mental capabilities as my sisters, and it was okay if I didn't get, the same grades as them. That was definitely a reason for me to not really care about grades as much as I probably could have or should have. As I got older, I realized what a load of BS that was from my mother, that I am more than capable and that I can still put my best foot forward and I can still get really good grades. My master's degree, I did very well, and I'm very proud of how much work I put in to make that happen. But this SAT was when I remember people in my school were freaking out about it. And I was sitting there thinking, but why? You have so many talents, and this one test score is not going to fully determine your life. This concept of we're all different, it can trip us up, but it can also be so beautiful, because I don't have all the answers. And if I find someone just like me and ask them for advice, they're going to give me the advice that I would give me. Whereas if I find someone with a different perspective and a different point of view, they're going to tell me something that I might not have thought of already. And that is where the beauty in learning and growing occurs. I'm attending a conference this week, and I saw the sessions for a certain time across one time slot. And I almost didn't go to this one session because I didn't know as much about, the title included industrial and organizational psychology, and that's not something I've studied in specific terms. And I sort of stopped myself and I said, if this is the one you know the least about, this is the one you need to go to. And I'm really glad that I did, because what I found out is that I might not have studied this in specific terminology and in specific contexts, but there's so much that I do know that I can relate and sort of use the language of this IO psychology and learn more about and serve and further enhance the things that I do know and do. And if we can all just take that moment to be brave, to put ourselves out there, to talk about the things that we know there are people who will judge us badly about, even though they're nothing to do with who we are and how capable we are. They're out of our control. If we continue to share and educate and destroy these destructive beliefs that certain things make us less than, society can only continue to get better and more accepting. And I think I'll just finish it here by once again saying that I know how much courage it can take to speak out. I'm not famous in any way, shape, or form the way that Richarlison is. And for him to do that, it's so weird to be proud of someone you've never met. But I really am proud of him, and I'm really grateful to him and to others who also speak out in this same way. So, this is real life, y'all. So if you're still here, I really appreciate you. Thank you. Please leave a like, maybe subscribe, share, and feel free to leave me a comment. Be kind to yourself.